Well, guys, Abyss 1 came with a very surprising drop. I didn't really see in the patch notes that Abyss 1 was coming, but it's here. So we're going to be doing a guide. So this is all of the basics that you need to know about Abyss 1. This will teach you everything from hitting your first 5,000 chests to even going up to 20,000, 30,000. This is going to be pretty much everything you need to know, from how to build your team, how to build them, so much stuff, how the boss works, how you need to time things, blah, 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 blah. Does not matter. I will be explaining a lot of things in this video. If you guys would like to like and subscribe, it would help me so much, and I would really appreciate it. But enough yapping out of the way, let's get right into it with perhaps the most important part to do before you get into the nitty-gritty of how the boss works, and that is really just building your team. Not building with gear, but building the team. Which units are you going to use? The main things that you need to keep in mind about this boss is it has a really big gimmick where it will start in a phase where it can only take damage from physical or piercing type attacks, so no magic damage. And then once you break the first shield, it's going to swap into magic damage. And then once that's done, it's going to swap back to physical, then magic. And by that point, you've already lost because it's impossible to break that shield. Though there is also one other thing to keep in mind, which is the boss does so much damage. The boss is going to sit there hitting you with a ton of attacks, like you're getting hit with 8 freight trains at the same time, and then you're going to go back and you're going to smack it with a fish. That's what it's going to feel like when you get into this boss. So you're going to need a ton of survivability to then allow you to do the damage. So it's going to be really key for your damage dealers to be really strong, to the point where you can free up more slots for either more damage on a different type of damage or for more survivability. It's really complicated, but let me break down some of the units you want to have. First of all, for support is the most important. You're going to need a buffer, like someone like a Diao Chan. Constance is also going to be really good. Dolores is a good fallback if you don't have many other options, but Diao Chan is by far the best. If you can get her to her A1, her basic attack range goes up quite a bit, and it's really good. And even beyond that, her 2 forms is so good for this. It feels like she was completely designed for this content. She's by far the best inspiration unit in the game. It is undeniable. She's really good. She's going to help you stay alive with her damage reduction, extra heals, and also buff your team with penetration increase and inspiration. It's really good. She is a must-have here, but like I said, there are other options. Now, the main supports that you're going to use, especially if you do not have Carnelian, which I will get into in a second, is Aelin and Pharisee. These people heal quite a bit. Aelin has the highest AoE healing in the game, or the most AoE healing in the game. But something like Pharisee brings this really good AoE damage reduction. Most of the boss's attacks are AoE, so this is just going to get rid of 25% of the damage the boss is inflicting on you. Really good. Aelin also has damage reduction, which is really good, and I'm pretty sure it stacks with Pharisees, so you want to have her there as well. And she also has really good healing. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up ulting with each of them in, certain timings, where they'll each basically be healing quite a bit at certain times to where you won't be able to die very easily. It's really good. Now, if you do not have both of them, you can use Carnelian. Surprisingly, when I initially looked at the stage on test server, I really thought that Carnelian would be required. And she is required once you get into like the 25k mark. Beyond that point, you kind of need her because it's impossible to live due to a certain attack we'll go into later. But she's actually not required if you have Aelin and Pharisee. Now, other healers that could be quite good. Also, something I forgot to mention, Carnelian will replace one of these two. So you only really need one of them and Carnelian, or both of them and no Carnelian. So keep that in mind. Other healers that come to mind, Eloin's pretty good. Great healing capabilities. She has, rage regen, which is really good, but you don't really need that much rage regen for this because most of it is just breaking the shields. It's not really about ulting a ton of times. Someone else that might be good is Sadie. really good damage reduction. And at that point, like Tallulah might be decent damage reduction, but at that point, there's not many other options. Now, for normal damage, normal / piercing, whatever, the main faction you're going to see is Nightmare. Nightmare just simply has a much higher peak, and just overall, they make it so that normal damage is so much better than magic damage. There's just a higher peak of that damage, and that's mostly because of 2 limited units, Wukong and Kigiri. If you do not have an A3 Kigiri or an A3 to A5 Wukong, you are going to struggle. You are not going to be able to get past 10k very easily. It's going to be a lot of work because these guys just have so much more damage output with their awakenings, but they're both still some of the better normal damage dealers, even without awakenings. I do not have awakenings, and they are still my best DPS. These 2 are going to be the key. Now, Arrogance is also really good. Salazar has some uses. Volka's pretty solid. Lust, blah, blah, blah. Those are pretty good as well. And then, oh, and also Rygar and Torador are both really good. Rygar does great damage, and Torador is a good tank. You'll need a tank. I'll explain why later. And then the other faction that you could do normal damage is Piercers, Star Piercers. I would recommend Yovar and Silas. Beyond that point, there's not many other options. And also something to keep in mind is you need a lot of ground units. So if you are not going to be using Nightmare, it's going to be really hard to deal with the ground units. Hex is also really, really good for this, but Hex is not a physical damage dealer, and that's because you need a lot of magic damage too. So he's going to be one of the best magic dealers. And the main faction you're going to see is Infernal Blast. Hex, Zillatu, Phineas, these are going to be the most important DPS that are non-lords. And then beyond that point, Sulkadins is going to be so important for the stage. If you have Sulkadins, you are eating good, because Sulkadins is just so important for the stage. Sulkadins essentially makes it so you need 1 less magic DPS overall because of what he does. For my team, I have to use Twin Fiend, Zillatu, and Hex. For you guys, if you have Sulkadins, you just need Sulkadins and Hex, or Sulkadins and Twin Fiend. Sulkadins and Zillatu, Sulkadins and Phineas. That's what you're gonna need. It's just it's night and day. So if you have Sulkadins, you're eating good. Otherwise, you got to use some other things. Now, if you do not have enough Infernals, you could use Arbiter, or you could use Watcher with Ingrid or Praetus respectively, and just use a bunch of magic TBS there. But it doesn't compare to Infernal. Now, some of you guys are probably going to mention why in my team, you're going to see in a second, am I not using Alistair or Init for the damage reduction, or even Volca? And that's because with Pharisee and Aelin, you're actually never going to get to a point, as long as everything's built somewhat tanky, where you need a ton of damage reduction put onto the boss. So it depends. If you are not using Aelin and Pharisee, you're going to need it on the boss. If you're using both of them, you won't need it. It's just kind of a push and pull situation where you got to just figure out what works best for you. But this is the team that I will be using to get a pretty decent score. It should be top 20 in the world by the time of this recording. But of course, it is pretty early in the day and early for the content. But that's still pretty impressive considering how many people have Wukong Awakenings. But yeah, this is the team. Not too many key awakenings. I'll break it down in a second. But before we get into the stage, there's a couple things I need to talk about skill-wise before we get into it. The main thing is every time a hero is defeated or retreats, redeployment time is increased by 30 seconds. Really, really problematic. You do not want to be pulling things very often. And then we got to talk about Meteoric Deluge. Moonton, if you're watching this, please nerf this. This is the most problematic skill the boss has. Even the first time that you see this, it's going to wreck half your team, and there's very little counterplay. The only counterplay is either building things so tanky that they can barely live, and this is only for the first one. The second one will wipe you out because the scaling gets too high, or use Carnelian. Carnelian will deal with it. Otherwise, you just absolutely get effed over, and you do not have a chance. The rest of the abilities are all, pretty strong, but pretty negligible. But that ability is hell. It's terrible, and it needs to be tuned down. A lot of things damage-wise in this boss need to be tuned down, and I think the shield requirements need to be tuned down a little bit, but that's a topic for later. But basically, this is the team I'm using. Hex, if you do not have the A3, you're just going to click him a little later. That's the only thing that's going to make a difference. It'll just lower your blood, but it will not make it so certain shields are impossible to break. Arrogance, you do not need this many awakenings, but if you have less awakenings, you're going to want to use someone like Twyla. I forgot to mention Twyla earlier, but she's really good for this as well. Really good normal damage. But this is the team. I'll show the gear later. Let's just get right into it. I'll try to explain how the boss works, how many attacks, blah, 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 blah. But we need to go into the placements first. There's a lot of things that go into this type of boss. So, starting off, a couple things to keep in mind. The placements really, really limit your platform units. It's really hard to place a lot of platform units, especially having Pharisee and Aelin cover them all. So you're going to see that the placements that I use personally, and it will differ depending on your team, how many fighters you have, how many platforms you have, but you're just going to see that I have already kind of planned that out in my head of what I need to do. The way that I like to think of it is I count the amount of ground units I have or platform units, and I try to think, how can I fit them all in Pharisee range? And also have them all in Diao, which is going to be our inspiration. It's just, it's a bit complicated, but you'll figure it out with time. Now, going into it, I'm going to put my main DPS down first. My main ones being these three. Also, I'm doing this pause strategy. I know it's a lot of information, but I'm pausing every time I place someone just so I have more time to build up ultimates. It's going to come in handy really, really soon, just for maximizing score. You do not need to do this, but I do recommend it. But we're going to place all of the units that we're going to be getting invigoration to. We have 3 invigoration through our healers. Aelin, Diao-chan, and Pharisee, they are all wearing invigoration, which gives 10% attack to any ally in their range with the highest attack. But it cannot stack. So what it will do is it'll give it to someone else. So we want to put 3 units down, our main 3 DPS. And then we're going to put our 3 invigoration, and it's just going to boost our damage a ton. So 1, 2, and 3. Now we have our core units down. Now, after this point, this part is also going to vary. I do not recommend doing this guaranteed, like it will depend on your account. But what I do is I place Arrogance here. I place Torador here, and I'll explain why that's super, super important. But that's the placements I use. I do not place Zillitu yet. Arrogance of Zillitu will be cycled out because the way this boss works is it's so overtuned that I'm just straight up going to die before I'm able to have the respawns being lengthened. It's just going to take too long for that to really, really affect me. So this is the way that I'm going to be doing it here. Now, the Torador thing that I mentioned, I have to pause it. Just, it's important. Basically, Torador has to be next to a unit. Otherwise, he'll take a lot of damage. It's not completely necessary, but it is somewhat important. And then also, if Torador is next to anyone, Torador being the highest HP unit, whoever's your highest HP unit would replace Torador. But basically, anyone around him is going to get instantly nuked. And there's only a couple units that can survive it. Constance, if you build her tanky with either Invig or Glacier, she can live it. Kagiri, who I'm using, can live it because when you click their ultimate, it eats up 1 thing of damage and doesn't take any damage. You could also maybe use a Volk or a Wukong in a key artifact, but you're going to have to build them very tanky. That's kind of all that will be able to live. This meteorite attack that's going to come out later. It's going to come through the magic phase, but that's a little bit later. So with that out of the way, this is the placements. It'll differ, obviously, but this is the thing that you want to aim for. First of all, what we're going to do is something that you're going to see. I know this is so much information. I'm so sorry, but there's so much to explain. Basically, the way you have to think of this boss's forms is the physical damage phase, because it has a higher peak damage output, and it's just easier to get that damage output. And just the way that the boss's attacks work, makes it so that you're not going to take that much damage comparatively to the magic phase. So the way it works is the physical phase is your damage output phase. You want to maximize your damage output to get the highest blood possible. And then when you move on to the magic phase, it's going to all be about survivability. You're not really going to care about the frequent damage output so much. You're going to care about living. So keep that in mind as we go into this. The boss also is going to do 4 attacks every phase. So this is the first attack. It's going to be a big hit followed by a bunch of small hits. It's honestly not that hard to live as long as things are built with some HP and you have decent healers like Pharisee and Aelin. It depends, of course. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to swap Diao Chan. And here, this is just an optimization that I have found. It will depend on your account. But I'm actually going to immediately click Twin Fiend. My Twin Fiend is A1, which is going to put out vulnerability stacks, increasing our damage. And then I'm going to click Kagiri and Wukong, and they will be up in time for the shield. So it's just a little bit of extra damage. Now, the second attack that the boss does on the physical phase is a stun. He does a big hit and then a stun. It's very important that for the second attack, you keep in mind that everyone has to be full HP or close to full HP. So later on, you're going to see that I ult with someone to just keep everyone alive, or I just keep that in mind and I keep an eye on it because the boss will stun you, stop anyone from being able to get healed, and then we'll do a little bit of consistent damage, and you just have to be prepared, right? This is the second attack that he does. The third attack is just another AoE thing. The first and the third attacks of each phase is just AoE hit, little AoE hits. It does stack up and it does add up, but it's not that big of a problem. Here, I'm just going to click Aelin ult to keep us alive. Aelin is kind of like a heal battery. The second you click her, she's going to heal you guys up, or heal everyone up pretty much to full. And we're going to keep this going. Now, the fourth attack that this guy does in the physical form is he's going to do just an AoE hit focused on your tank. It's going to hit one tile around him. So here with this placement, it's only going to hit Torador and Kagiri. This attack honestly does not do that much damage. So we're going to get hit by it right here. He's going to put it. You can very faintly see that. Well, you can't really see, but basically there's an outline around Torador, and it's going to hit everyone around Torador. And then the boss is going to go into his shield form, and then we're going to have to do damage. So here, I mean, Arrogance helped us chunk it down a little bit. The way that my account I've planned out is I can do Twin Fiend, and then I can do Kagiri, and then I can do Wukong. If you have A3 Kagiri plus or A3 Wukong plus, you're going to have a much easier time. But basically, we just deal with this. And when the boss goes down and you see this circle, when it reaches the top, it's going to pretty much immediately swap to magic damage. And then for my team, we're going to swap Arrogance for Zillitu. It's really complicated, but I hope this helps. But here we're going to get about 4,000 damage out. Now this is without Kagiri and without Wukong at Key Awakenings. I cannot understate how important that is. Here we're going to place or sell Arrogance because you can see that every single physical hit that's being put out is doing 10 damage. And then we're going to put down Zillitu and just keep this going. We're at 4,400 points. We're almost at the first chest. And we're going to keep this going. Here, because my hex is over A3, I'm going to click his ultimate. And we're about to get hit with the initial hit and then the small multi-hits after. So I'm going to kind of wait a little bit just because I know that I could survive this, get a little bit of damage from Hex, and then I'm going to swap Diao Chan to help us live. And swapping Diao Chan lets us build up our resistance stacks because we're going to need those, and it takes time to ramp those up. So here we're going to swap her, and then I'm also going to click Pharisee pretty soon in order to heal us up a little bit better, so we're more prepared for the second hit, where the boss does big hit, big hit, big hit. Similar to the Golem in G-Raid 2, it's just going to do it pretty often. Now, hopefully my Zillitu lives. Yep, that's always been kind of an issue for me, for my account, but we'll make it through. Also, make sure that you keep your Diao Chan. Now, the third hit's going to be the initial and then the multi-hits, and I'm going to click Aelin ult after this, and it's going to carry us until the shield, because Aylin's ult lasts a decent amount of time, even though mine is not fully skilled. Next, we're going to get hit by the meteor, which I've been hyping out this entire time. Despite us not doing any damage with Kagiri, we're going to click the ultimate to keep him alive. This is so hard to live. Sometimes Torador will die, sometimes he won't. It's complicated. But basically, as long as Kagiri doesn't die, we're okay. There he dies. I'm just going to keep it going. I don't really care. But here we're going to do Twin Feed, we're going to do Zilla 2, and with Hex as well, we should hopefully be able to swap it. Also, make sure to put Diao Chen back. But basically, we should be able to crunch the shield, please. Oh my god, very close. And that's that phase. That's the second phase done. We're going to keep it going. I know it looks a bit rough, and it is. I'm not even going to try to defend this stage. It's terrible. But anyways, we're going to do the Twin Feed thing, and then the Wukong thing, like I did before. If Kagiri was here, I would trigger Kagiri too. Usually he lives, I promise, but not this time. Just get as much damage as possible, and then they'll be ready for the shield. But here, we're going to also do Pharisee ult pretty soon to keep everyone alive. And I'm also going to switch Diao just because I don't want to die. It depends on your account. And then Arrogance will actually come back up. And we're dangerously low for this phase. Luckily, Wukong A1 will keep us alive a little bit if things go wrong. And then here, we're going to click Aylin, keep us alive a little bit longer, and just hope and pray that we can survive. This thing is terrible. It's hell, right? It's really hard to deal with. Here, now we're going to basically go up to this, and I know you guys cannot see it, but the best I was able to do with no Kagiri Wukong Awakenings or important ones is I was able to barely get to about here. It was about 5 million damage off. That was what I could get to. So with any of those awakenings, which I know I've been talking about a lot, but it's so important, I would be able to get here. So if you have those, or you have Sulkadins, which allows you to have 1 less magic damage, and then you can add 1 more physical damage, like a Silas or a Cetrum or a Lust or something, and figure that out, you can break the shield and get to that 12k chest pretty easily. I say easily very lightly because it's still hard as hell. But my best was just shy of 10k. I didn't save it, but that is the best that I was able to do. And that is the stage. This stage is hard. It is complicated. You will not get this the first time. This took me quite a lot of attempts on test server with A5s. And then I spent a couple hours figuring it out on my account. It's brutal. And I'm going to talk a little bit before I end off the video about things that I think would make it better. Kagiri actually has been my best DPS before, so keep that in mind that if he didn't die, he would be much higher. But this is the damage output here. It will differ depending on gear and awakenings, of course, but this is how it turns out. With 9k though, I'm going to show you the leaderboards. It's going to be like here. We go down 9k, 9k, 9k. It's going to be about top 50, which is crazy, right? I probably would be about 41, 42 area. It's kind of nuts. And if you go through the leaderboards, keep in mind A3 Kagiri, A3 Wukong, or above. They have it, 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 they have it. Boom. This one is actually really cool. 15k with neither. Of course, it is Valderon doing all the work, but that's still really, really cool. You guys can definitely take inspiration from that. I didn't even think of Valderon, but you can keep going over and over again. They have one of the two, except for someone like this guy. But like I said, Twyla's really good. And also, if you have Sulkadins, it opens up another slot, which is Cetrum. He's using Cetrum. Cetrum's doing really good. And that's able to clear that shield that I was struggling on. This is the optimization you have to look for. So keep that in mind. Obviously, A5 Lust also really good. Rygar over here with A5 Wukong. This guy used Praetus and Ingrid. Pretty impressive. But basically, only 27 people have made it to the second chest so far. It's really brutal. So With that being said, is this even worth it? Maybe not, but any extra chances to get soulstones is pretty good. And what would I do to change this now that I've had a actual account experience with this? I'm like 500 days in. I don't farm all that much. I don't, play the game as much as I should have. I should because I make content and I do takeovers and stuff. Speaking of, if you want to join my Discord for a takeover for this stupid ass thing, the description will have my Discord link, whatever. But basically, I think the boss does a little bit too much damage. It's really hard to live, and it's annoying. I think it should be lowered a little bit more because the damage ramp at some point gets to the point where it is unlivable. So if they lower everything a little bit, then it'll make it easier to go a bit further. And then I think they need to lower the shield requirements just a tad. The shields are too hard to break, especially because you need the survivability, you need the physical, you need the magic, and you need a tank. And it's like, there's just so many things happening that you just can't get that damage without all of the awakenings. And even then, it's not enough to get anywhere near the top chest. So I just think it'll make it a bit more accessible to everyone. And even if you can break those shields, it's not going to increase your score by that much. Let's be honest. So I think that needs to be lowered a little bit. And then the stupid ass meteor thing needs to be lowered. This thing is the worst ability. I hate it. I think it's terrible design that it basically one taps everything. It's terrible. Oh, also gear wise, before I end off the video, I know this has been a long one. Sorry for that, but it had to be long. Basically, Infernal Roar on Zillatu is her best. The gear is not bad. I tried to do 1 crit damage and 2 attacks. I don't know if that's the best yet. It'll take a lot of testing. Also, you're going to see everyone's built with a little bit of HP. Zillatu is bugged with Wailing Skull, does way more damage than you think she should. Hex, I have a lot of crit damage, some attack. I could probably do more attack. This piece I know is insane, but I needed the HP. You don't need the gear to be that good. I also have his exclusive, which is really important. Diao-chan is in Wings of Grace, technically, but basically inspiration. I also built her with some HP. Keen Wisdom gives the most damage increase. Worked best for me. Twin Fiend, I didn't have enough Soulbound, so I built him with Ageless with HP. Exclusive, you could do Tear of Twilight if you want as well. Oops. Let's go on to Aelin. Aelin is not fully skilled. I built her with a little bit of HP, lots of attack speed. You want to have more attack than mine, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I have her exclusive. You could really do anything. Torador I just built with my best tank gear. And then Bastion Ring, just to keep him alive. You could do Morale if you want. A little bit of extra damage. Wukong I built with probably more attack than I needed, but Soulbound right there. Exclusive artifact. My exclusives are pretty low. Another optimization you can make. Hirikigiri, same thing as Wukong. And then Arrogance, I know is A5. Soulbound. Realm Tear. Realm Tear's probably not very good for him there. And then Pharisee, lots of HP. That's basically what I did. Also, you 4 Orb, you want to have 1 on your team. Those are my builds. And that's kind of everything, I think. I think I've gone over everything. Basically, you need the Awakenings to make it work. I'm hoping they tune it down a little bit. I don't think it should be tuned down in a way that makes it so that everything is too easy to get the highest chest. I don't think that's how it should be. But the fact that it's too hard to even get part of the way there is what bothered me a little bit. I would like to see that lowered a tiny, tiny bit. But overall, fun content. I really did enjoy the time figuring it out. And I'm excited to see how the devs decide to make it more attainable for those later chests. I hope this helped you guys, and I hope this will increase your score even a little bit. Please try to get the 5,000. I do think it is worth it to spend the 200 gems if you have a lot of gems. If you don't, then don't feel bad about missing out. And this is end game content. I know there's going to be people talking about my gear and blah, 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 blah. You need the gear. This is tame gear for this content. Let's be real. Anyways, that is all from me. Sorry for yapping your ears off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Destined signing out.